Education.
Because everywhere you go around the country, people are talking about how important education is for their kids.
Every year, Americans send their kids to school and hope it provides an environment that promotes learning and encourages students to develop a positive learning culture. Even with this in mind, many schools are unable to provide the best environment and resources for their students due to a lack of sufficient funding or a disparity in funds received by different schools.
In fact, this bill, the bill pending before the Senate today, falls $8.4 billion short of what is promised in an effort to ensure that no child is left behind.
This is why, as newly elected congressmen, we would prioritize tackling the issue of education funding.
Many schools are severely underfunded, and this often takes away the opportunities that greatly benefit growing children. For example, without money for everything school needs, schools will be forced to prioritize, and this often leads to cuts in programs like art, physical activity, and music.
There's less art, music, physical education, the courses that kids need for science and math. I was in a school this week in Yonkers, New York. 500 of the 2,000 teachers have been laid off because of economics. Kids who have had pre-kindergarten, full-day pre-kindergarten, which has worked to help prepare them, they can't afford it anymore.
There are also problems with educators. Many qualified educators often won't voluntarily join an underfunded school due to lack of resources, and this can give unequal opportunities to students between funded and underfunded. This is exactly what children need to strive. Exposure to everything a funded school would have. In underfunded schools, students often must deal with large class sizes, fewer advanced classes, lack of resources, less experienced teachers, and in some cases, no teacher at all.
So why does this funding disparity exist? Well, school funding comes from a combination of funds provided by different levels of government. In the chart above, you can see the distribution of this funding between the government levels for the 2019 to 2020 school year. From the chart, we can clearly see the federal government's minimal involvement in an issue that the American people hold as a top priority. In fact, some Americans have even lost trust in either party of the United States Congress to actually take action on insufficient education.
Republicans don't really do anything but talk about this. The Democrats, well, they're going to spend some money, but I don't think they really got much of a scheme either.
A majority of school funding comes from local and state governments. Each state decides the weighting they give to certain schools over others based on certain criteria, as you can see above. Even though this funding method seems equitable, the main problem is that it doesn't consider local funding, which is also a major portion of school funding. Local funding comes from property taxes, which generate significantly more revenue in wealthy neighborhoods. Essentially, this leads to the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, since the level of education a person has is in strong correlation with the income they will earn in the future.
So how is this relevant in our home state of Michigan? Some of the worst impacts of deficient school funding in Michigan can be seen in Detroit public schools. Many Detroit public schools are severely underfunded and face an unbearable learning environment. This is due to low local funds, which is about 46% of the total school funding. This results in inadequate education programs and facilities for students in such underfunded districts. Because students are required to attend a public school in the district they live in, many students found themselves stuck in these inadequate school programs. Even within districts, there is an inequality in the way that funds are received due to the same problem with local property taxes.
In order to tackle inadequate school funding, the first step is to increase the percentage of funding made up by federal funds. This is due to the fact that federal funds can be distributed equally to school districts regardless of the income in the neighborhood and the resulting property tax revenue. As new congressmen, we would have the power to lobby for such changes in federal spending and make public schools around the country more equal in their educational experience for students. Although some people may argue that the federal government has other spending priorities, They do not take into account that the future of the nation rests on the education that we provide our kids. For these reasons, it is imperative that as newly elected congressmen, we prioritize education and ensure a bright future for America.